Good morning, y'all. We are going to continue doing our Bible study, and we're going to do it this way for the foreseeable future because this is the world that we're in at the moment, and we're going to try and continue to keep things as normal as we can, and we want to continue to be able to build each other up and stay as a community as much as possible. So welcome to Bible study. The last few weeks, we've been talking about the fruit of the Spirit, and we talked about love, joy, and peace right before the whole world went crazy. And as I was going through that, I was studying for the next fruit, and I had no idea what was coming in the world. And the next fruit that we're talking about is patience. But as you study that word, there's so much more to it, like many things in the Bible. And in other versions, that word patience is also called long-suffering. And what it is it's also called steadfast or endurance. And so that word patience is really a call to be steadfast, a call to endure. And I had no idea that while I was studying that word that very next day after Bible study, that I would go to work like everything was normal and that nothing would be normal after that. That the next day my job would email me and that next week I would be off work. And a few days after that, they would tell us that we were off for the next 6 weeks. And our whole world just flipped upside down, and everything is different. Now we're doing Bible study over the phone, and we're doing church on our phones, and the grocery stores are crazy, and everything is just in chaos as I'm studying this word and just really got this word from the Lord that this fruit that I was studying was a call to suffer well. And what perfect timing it was to get a call to suffer well as we all go through this time. Suffering is something that we all understand. We've all been through hard times, but especially during this time of social distancing and isolation, we are all in the same boat. We all get it. And the whole world is watching us now as believers to see if we are practicing what we're preaching, if the God that we say gives us peace and comfort and joy and all those things, if he really does. That when the rubber hits the road, if our faith is going to inflate or if it's going to deflate and we're going to retreat and take off. And so now is the time during these crises that happen that we really have to show what we're made of. And on Sunday, Aaron's sermon just was so good. It was such a blessing. It was so challenging to me to hear what he had to say when he was talking about being in a desert. And it feels like being in a desert, being so isolated right now during this time. And just talking about, will Jesus be enough? Will God be enough during this time to sustain you? And that hit me so hard, and I had to write down one of his quotes so that I could remember it. And he said, "Would the God who created all things be able to content us in our loneliness, in our social distancing, in our isolation?" And that's the question. And that's what the world is looking to us for, because the world right now, they desperately need joy and hope and peace and comfort, and they need something to be enough, because right now nothing is enough, and it's scary and it's chaotic. And so how do we go through this time of isolation, and how do we suffer well through it all? Well, I found a few things. One of them, which we've talked about every single week so far, has been one of our main points, but it has proven to be true again and again and again, is that we have to stay anchored. And what that means is that we anchor ourselves in the truths that are found in the Bible. And so one of those that I have been anchoring myself to these last couple weeks is Hebrews 13:8. And that verse declares that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And what that means is that my future is as secure today as it was 2 weeks ago before I knew this was going to happen, as it was a year ago, as it was 2 years ago, as it will be a year from now. My future is secure in His hands, because even in this craziness and all these unknowns, He is unchanging, He is unwavering, and I can anchor myself to that. That's one truth. You can find so many of those in the Bible. That's what we have to anchor ourselves to. Another one, we talked about it just at our last Bible study, is John 16:33, where Jesus promises us, in this world, you will have trouble. He promises that. You will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. He promises we will have trouble, but He promises that He is so much bigger than anything that's in the world. So find those promises to cling to. Another verse is that God has not given us a spirit of fear. So when I am feeling fearful, which is sometimes often during this time, when I don't know what's going to happen with my job, when I don't know what's going to happen with my family or with any of this craziness, is that I cling to the fact that God has not given me a spirit of fear. And so then I look into 2 Timothy 1:7, and I look at what God has given me. So find those verses, find those things that you can cling to, read truth to anchor yourself to. It's so easy to get swept up in the craziness and the chaos of everything going on around you. And if you're not anchored in truth, you're going to fly away and you're going to get caught up in this tornado of craziness and confusion and chaos. So you have to anchor yourself to the truth that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hold on to that. Hold on to the fact that He is bigger than anything that could happen here. He's not giving you a spirit of fear, but a spirit of sound mind. Hold on to that. The second thing that we can do is be grateful. It's something that is really difficult during this time, but something that is so important. So every day, when you get up, when you're doing your devotions, list off things that you are grateful for, even if they're little. I am grateful for this cup of coffee. I am grateful that the sun is shining. Whatever it may be, list off those things. Fill your heart with gratitude first before you fill it with anything else. Because if you have a heart that is full of those things, it is very hard for anything else to sneak up in there, like worry and doubt and fear. I was reading a book right after I talked about joy and peace and Paul and Silas singing in prison. And it just had this one line in there that just shot straight to my heart. And it said, "Are you sulking when you should be singing?" And I have thought about that every single day that I've been quarantined and in isolation. Am I sulking when I should be singing? And so sometimes for me, it's literally just putting on praise music and worshiping Jesus when I want to just lay on the couch and have a little pity party for myself, and being grateful that I have a home and that I have food and I have some toilet paper And the final thing that we have to do is we have to remember. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, raising our Ebenezer, having those remembrance stones. I literally have remembrance stones that I have to pull out. If you have those things, those notes, those stones, whatever it may be that remind you of God's faithfulness, take them out. This is the time that we need them. We need to remember that God was faithful before. Because he was faithful before, we know that he will be faithful again. So take those out. If you don't have any, write stuff down. Write things down that he's done for you in the past. Take them out. Put them out somewhere. Hang them on your mirror. Hang them on your coffee pot. Put them up everywhere that you'll see them. We need to remember what God has done for us so that we know that he will be faithful again, just as he was in the past. We have to suffer well through this time, and by doing these 3 things, I really believe we can. And during this time, while we do that, there is so much joy to be found in this place and peace to be sought out. And then when we find that, once we seek that out and we choose it, then you share it with someone else, because people need it during this time. And whether it's just someone you run into at the grocery store, because I know we don't have a lot of interaction, or it's a text, or you FaceTime a friend, or whatever it is, send some encouragement to someone's way, because we all need it. We need to be here for each other. We need to be a light in someone's life right now. This is a hard time. It's confusing, but we don't have to have a spirit of fear. We don't have to be afraid. We can still hold on to that joy and peace that we had a couple weeks ago. We can still be singing even though it's midnight in prison, which is sometimes what it feels like. We can still sing even though we feel like sulking. So friends, claim that joy, claim that peace, and claim that long suffering, and we're going to suffer well through this time together. Love y'all.